Well, good afternoon, guys. Michael and Israel here for another Tech Tuesday. Beautiful, beautiful day. Um, it's nice and sunny, so I hope you're able to get out on the water. I hope you're able to break a few things so you can bring it in here. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Don't want you to break stuff. But if you do need help, by all means, give us a shout. Uh, how is service department going? Probably waiting a while
Yeah,
to
it's
get
busy.
something fixed.
Yeah,
Um,
depending on what it is. You know, we try to set some time aside every week to do quick stuff, so people aren't sitting here for 3 weeks getting oil change.
gotcha.
Sometimes it happens, but
Getting
we try to
some
push that stuff out.
de-winterizing going on and all that kind of good stuff. Getting boats ready. It's been nice driving over the Coosa and over Neely Henry, seeing more and more boats getting out on the water and not just fishing boats. So I actually saw a guy in a kayak with a bow mounted trolling motor sitting right out in the middle of the river. So
Big kayaks, small one.
it was a pretty decent size. I couldn't tell. I was too far away to tell which brand it was, but it was. So it's that time of the year. Get out there, have some fun. Although May has been nuts, so maybe between graduations and all the kids stuff and end of year school stuff.
Yep.
So guys, if y'all have got any questions, drop them in the comments. As always, I picked a few. If we need to get started with that to give us at least something to talk about, but it's a lot more fun if we're answering your questions because we know we're helping you out. So, with that, I'm going to go ahead and throw one on the screen.
Ooh, it's nice up there.
Yeah, so I picked up a vibration on the way back from a trip a few days back. Sorry, tiny print from the screen grab. A few days back, and after going through my limited knowledge, this is what I came up with. Question is, what could cause this? Anyone, and this was in the Yamaha group, so no information on what Yamaha motor it is, but
Yeah.
it
If
is
you got
Yamaha.
one that looks like that, you better be checking your cylinder too, because it's probably part of it's melted like the tip of that spark plug. But it could be pre-detonation, could be pre-ignition, which is kind of similar. But I've seen build up of carbon on plugs, and it'll just, if it gets hot enough, it'll ignite, just
Hmm.
blow up.
Okay.
And if it's on a plug, it'll do that right there. But typically, your cylinder's running at lean when you see stuff like that.
All right.
So
Well, is that expensive?
if the piston looks like that too, it is. Yeah.
Uh, well,
Yeah, and sometimes when you're running, right now is kind of a funny time in the season. It's when winter blend fuel and summer blend fuel. There's no perfect time to change it. So sometimes if they think the summer is going to start a little sooner, they'll go ahead and put summer blend fuel in the tanks, and it runs weird if the weather gets cool all of a sudden,
gotcha.
and vice versa. So they think, well, it's going to be cool for another month. We're not going to start mixing the fuel for summer blend fuel just yet, and then suddenly you have a 95-degree day, and in both cases, motor it doesn't want to crank real quick. So, and in some cases, it won't crank at all. So that's one thing people need to be watching out for. If you're having, if you've been running your boat all winter, like bass boat, and then suddenly it's not cranking up real good, or it cranks up good, and then when you fish for a while, it's really hard to crank. It's probably going to go away eventually, like in the coming months or weeks, because it's typically the wrong blend fuel
Okay.
is being processed.
So maybe go run that fuel out on a beautiful
Yeah,
afternoon.
yeah, and if it's a more volatile fuel, then like a winter blend fuel is going to be. You need to be careful when you run the fuel out
Gotcha.
because it could look like that spark plug.
Oof.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I see some of you guys jumping in again. I'd much rather ask or answer your questions. So please throw them in. I'm going to double check and see if I'm missing anything. Doesn't look like I am. So everything looks like it's working just fine. We'll make sure that we're not missing out on questions. But I want to move on to another one. And this one's a fairly long read, but another one from the Yamaha forum. 2004 F225 with 1,400 hours. I've owned for a year. Started overheating. My mechanic said the exhaust was perfect, probably replaced, and took the heads off, cleaned the water passages. It's still overheated, barely pisses. If at all, I took it back, replaced the water pump housing, and said if that doesn't do it, he's at a loss. Took it out today. It took longer, but it's still overheated. Thoughts?
Let's see. Trying to digest all that. I'm gonna say that there's coolers in the system. And I don't know if it's changed. If it hasn't changed the thermostats, that's another, place he needs to look. Because if they get stuck closed on either side, it's going to overheat. Putting a water pump on it's going to improve it because you're, taking maybe a lethargic pumping process and ramping it up a little bit, but it's not going to fix the problem. It's just going to mask it for a little while. But I would say. The likelihood is probably going to be something either stopped up in the system, like sand. So we've had coolers stopped up, and that can like oil coolers and in some cases Yamaha likes to run rectifier regulators and there'll be a cooler for that, and some of that stuff runs through has to go through that before it gets to some of the heads potentially, and then sometimes I've seen heads stopped up. But I would probably shoot for a thermostat next, and then if that's not it, then you would have to look at the coolers.
Gotcha.
There's usually 2 on there though.
All right.
Maybe 3. There's fuel pump cooler too on the VST, but that won't cause your overheat.
Well, at least he's got a mechanic that's willing to fess up that he's not.
I've had people call me asking me these questions, same scenario, and it's hard to tell somebody exactly what it is, and over the phone. But I've had a guy call me like 3 weeks in a row. I was like, well, I've tried this, and it's still doing that. You mind if I send them to you? I was like, well, that's fine. Let's see if I can figure it out.
Well, I'd still rather have a mechanic that's willing to confess his limitations than just keep BSing you and wasting your money.
That's right.
So, all right. So prop for the Avid 21 mag with a 200 show. Whatever. For now, if you can get the motor, that's a good.
Or if you get the prop.
Yeah, or if you can get the
prop.
prop.
Is a big thing too. But I would say. It's probably going to be somewhere in between a 19 and a 21, depending on the load that you carry in and what you're looking to do with it. If I were just to guess, we always, they most of our stuff comes, with a prop,
right?
And so we have a baseline to go by, or they've already tested it with that prop on there. But you don't really know until you get out there with a prop, and that's the bad part.
Yeah.
I would suggest that I don't know if you have a prop on it already or if you just repowered or something, but I would start
off.
It's
21 mag. I mean, it's got to be only a couple of years old.
Okay, so, you're talking about Avid?
The Avid. Yeah, the Avid 21 mag.
Yeah.
So the 21 FS.
It was what I was thinking in my mind. That's why I'm saying a 21 would probably be a good place to start, but I don't know why you wouldn't have a prop if you already got a prop on there.
Yeah, if you're trying to get more performance out of it, I think that gets into what we always end up. Got the motor, got the prop, just trying to dial it in quickly brand new boat, uh, and
Oh, and a 200
200
XP.
XP.
Okay.
Yep, yep. So,
Yeah.
if you haven't heard, we probably at least every other week have a good question or discussion about props, and a lot of this kind of stuff comes down to trial and error. What like he's saying, what came with it ought to work pretty well. Trying to dial it in. How are you loading the boat up? What when you say dial it in to me, I'm well. Are you wanting the max hull shot,
Max
or
speed.
are you trying to get max speed? Um, you know, that's um, max fuel efficiency. I don't. But yeah, I mean,
But
I don't know
I've
if we
had
played too much with the different props on
not a
those
lot,
21
just
foot.
whatever it came with. Usually has been working, but we've had a few guys with not necessarily 21 mag, but we've had a few guys that were putting big coolers in that boat, and they were loading it down with a bunch of stuff. It was like, well, what can I do to get a better hull? Well, just gonna have to go down a pitch, and so we ended up putting a 19 on that guy, and he was able to get out of the hole, but he wasn't really interested in top speed because he was running 3,500 RPMs out to wherever he was going. He just wanted to get out of the hole better.
That mag was built also as kind of a family boat, a little more family friendly. I guess that's a good way to put it. So if you're tubing, if you're trying to get skiers, do any of that kind of stuff on top of fishing, then
you want
to go lower. You want to get that hull shot, and then you're going to sacrifice some of that. But I don't know. I hope that kind of helps. Unfortunately, I think with where you're at and when you get to that point with that boat, it just seems like it's trial and error. You kind of have to swap them out and see which one. Just the weight and balance of the boat. Talk about Matt Herron is Bassmaster lead angler, and he talks often about the weight and balance. He's real big on how you've got it laid out. That can make a huge difference in dialing in the boat. So, yeah. All right. Well, I hope you're enjoying that Avid. We've enjoyed carrying them, and we've gotten a few in. They're doing a pretty good job. I think we got a couple in without motors, so that's not really a joke when we say if you can get a motor. Looking for great top end speed with light to medium load.
Yeah. So you got the 19. You could probably go up to 21 to get a little more speed out of it. I don't know, how much speed you'll get. Usually it's a couple of mile an hour, so it may or may not be worth, trying to mess with that. So.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is, do you have the hydraulic jack plate on there?
Yeah.
If you're really trying to dial it in, you can squeeze a little bit more out. So, all right, let me pull up. I got another long one. So a 2002 F-115 stumbles and sometimes stalls after running 4,000 RPMs when pulled back to idle. Seems to be worse the higher the RPM I pull back. So it always stalls running 4,500 RPM, only sometimes we come back from 35. Replaced the IAC a year ago with a $40 Amazon part. It got
idle air control valve.
Idle air control valve. All right. It got better, but it was not solved. Always starts back easily after stall. The current IAC does click when shut off, but not as loud as the OEM. Do you think my problem will be solved with a Yamaha IAC? What else should I check?
Yeah, and the problem with some of those engines is sometimes it's not the IAC, it's in the harness. There'll be broken wires inside the harness that can cause some problems. Also, if you had a truly bad IAC, and depending on how long you ran the motor with that IAC, sometimes it will damage the computer. Yeah, especially on the 115s. They got the dual throttle bodies, And so that's another thing. It could be fine as well if you don't ever if you've never had the sinking link done on the throttle body. There's like 4 runners, but only 2 throttle bodies, and there's a certain synchronization they do, and just from the factory, just over the years, they can vary.
Gotcha.
And so after a while, you have to redo it. And so if you put a new IAC on there and you don't do that, then you can still have some issues. So
Gotcha.
usually that'll help. I would definitely say go with the OEM because the stuff you're getting from Yamaha is made in Japan, and a lot of times the stuff you're getting from eBay is made in deep China, in an alley somewhere.
Well, you got any idea what a Yamaha brand part like that, what the price difference would be?
It's probably 150, 200
Gotcha.
bucks, something like
Gotcha.
that.
Interesting. All right. Well, hope that helps them. All right, guys. Well, it's a busy Tuesday here. If y'all don't have any more questions, then I think we're going to get back at it and going. We actually got a couple loads of crust pontoons that we're getting set up. It's been a while since we've had this many pontoons available for retail. Everything's been coming in sold, but I think we've got a whopping 8 pontoons available right now, which is absolutely nuts. You may not see the stuff rolling through the website or any dealer's website for that matter, but the manufacturers are getting the boats in. I mean, we're turning and burning and getting them through. They're just pretty much all sold by the time they get here.
Especially bass boats.
Yeah. We're going to go get back to work. Guys, appreciate your time. Thanks for the question. I hope you enjoy that new Avid. Like I said, we've loved them around here.
There's a new 21 Elite out. He brought it by a couple of days ago.
Oh, yeah, I saw the teaser. I don't know that I've seen if they've released the actual video of it.
Well, they brought it by here, and it was awesome.
All right.
Yeah, and I'm trying to talk them into doing it in a 20-foot.
Yeah, 20-foot with a 250.
Well, yeah, so this one's a 21 with a 250. And so if they get us a 20 with a 250, we'll be.
I swear that
on the money.
That 20XB would handle it. I'm not an engineer, but it definitely feels like
the changes they made on the Elite are impressive. They're really nice. Really nice.
Well, also
they're only going to be able to make a limited amount this year. This coming year model.
Yeah.
I think they're going to try to make 50, but I think it may take over the XB spot.
Nice. Well,
especially if they do a 20-foot. So they may. Who knows? We'll see.
I would like to see that with a 21 FS tunnel hull.
Yeah, that'd be cool too.
That sounds like a pretty. Depending on how much performance you lose out of that boat, if it's not all that much, that's got to be. You put a jack plate on that thing, you ought to be able to run in water puddles.
That's right.
So, all right, guys, y'all have a wonderful afternoon, and get out there and go boating.
There you go.
We'll talk to you guys later. See ya.